Ladies and gentlemen, depending on where you are, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to this UN75 talk with the UN Kuwait and the Intisar Foundation, discussing women, war, mental health, and the quest for peace. I'm humbled and honored to be moderating this distinguished gender-balanced panel. Oftentimes, in this day and age, we still attend conferences and webinars with all male panels, better known as manels. I'm very happy to see that UN Kuwait and the Intisar Foundation are leading by example on this issue, embracing true UN inclusive values. We have with us today Dr. Tariq Sheikh, representative of the United Nations Secretary General and resident coordinator to the state of Kuwait. Her Highness Sheikha Intisar al-Subah, founder and president of Intisar Foundation. Mr. Mohammed Nasiri, director of Asia Pacific regions for UN Women. Dr. Lina Kredi, senior researcher at Intisar Foundation and a political psychologist. And Dr. Samer Haddadin, head of UNHCR office to the state of Kuwait. And a very special guest, Mrs. Fatima Khalife, a voice of inspiration and an empowered woman from the Intisar Foundation. A few housekeeping points before we start. Kindly, I ask all participants to mute their microphones, unless, of course, they have the floor to speak. For Arabic translation, for all our participants, you can go to the chat box and there's a YouTube link there from UN Kuwait where the whole session will be translated into Arabic. And I would like us all to have a still moment because I was asked that a picture will be taken, a family photo of the panel. So to the best of our abilities, let's try to do this online. And please let me know when we can move on. All right, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, according to the Global Peace Index of 2019, the MENA region is the least peaceful region in the world. Plagued by wars and armed conflict, many Arab countries continue to struggle in their quest for peace. Extensive literature over the years has shown that women are the most impacted from conflict and wars. Furthermore, women are especially more vulnerable to the psychological impact of such events. A lasting negative impact is inevitable on the mental health and emotional well-being of survivors, many of whom become internally displaced persons or are refugees. As 2020 marks the 25th anniversary of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action, the 20th anniversary of Security Council Resolution 1325, the first of 10 resolutions focusing on women, peace, and security, and the 5-year milestone of the SDGs, it is very timely that UN Kuwait and the Intisar Foundation have chosen to discuss this topic today. After all, peace in our society relies greatly on the mental health of half of the population of that society. The Intisar Foundation and the United Nations were both founded after wars and are both on a mission to instill peace and to prevent more conflict. And they are also both guided by the principle that women can be peacemakers. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our first panelist, Dr. Tariq Sheikh, the representative of the UN Secretary General and UN Resident Coordinator to the state of Kuwait. Dr. Sheikh, thank you for being with us today. I don't think I can do justice to your bio in 30 seconds, so forgive me if I miss anything. You have worked around 2 decades in various UN agencies and UN country teams. You are an expert in policies and strategies of urban development formulation. You are the author of numerous publications and articles in international journals on planning, community, and urban sustainability. Dr. Sheikh, please tell us more about the work and the role of the UN in the state of Kuwait.
Thank you, Karma, for this very interesting introduction. And I would like also to extend my thanks and deep appreciation to Sheikh Intisar al-Sabah and Intisar Foundation for the innovative ideas they always bring to the sustainable development community in Kuwait and beyond Kuwait. And I would like to start by welcoming all ladies and gentlemen present with us today, and particularly also our distinguished ambassadors in the diplomatic community in Kuwait, and members of the diplomatic corps, and all members of the state of Kuwait. I also would like to welcome and appreciate the presence of my dear colleagues, Mohammed al-Naseri from UN Women, Regional Director for Asia Pacific, and also my dear colleague Samer Haddadin, the representative of the UNHCR in the state of Kuwait, and all distinguished speakers who are going to be presenting to us different interesting parts of women, war, mental health, and the quest for peace. Let me start my words by recalling the Secretary General Antonio Guterres' call for the world to stop war, armed conflict, and ceasefire and unify to fight the COVID pandemic. War is not only destroying economies, infrastructure, cities, it is tearing people and families apart, destroying physical and mental health, but also breaking children and young women psychologically, and also leaving people in grief, sorrow, and no hope for the future. It does not only displace people and families, but also displaces hearts and minds. Violence against women during conflict has reached epidemic proportions. Civilians has become the primary targets of groups who use terror as a tactic of war. In all religions, people were instructed to respect, cherish, and appreciate women. They are the reason for our existence, the backbones of families, supporting, working, and nurturing communities to grow. In war, the United Nations, and as Karma has mentioned, have always fought for the protection of women and children against violence and impact of war. With the pandemic as an additional burden on women in conflict areas, not only health, but mental health become crucial to continue surviving and supporting families and communities and young children, and continuing working hand in hand with their partners of development for aspiring peace and stability. In this path, mental health through innovative approaches and means gains great importance, and particularly during this pandemic. With the limitation of mental health services to women in conflict areas, various alternative approaches for psychological healing are needed. The innovation of Intisar Foundation to use drama for psychological therapy and mental well-being of women in conflict areas and refugees is another innovation added to the type of work Intisar Foundation adopts in ensuring behavioral change and reversing impact of war on women and families, and also the wider community in conflict. It is our aim to realize peace, safety, and well-being, and this would not happen, materialize without such kind of innovation and innovative ideas and bringing this to practice. We have today our distinguished discussants who are going to present to us different views and approaches to the role of women in research, in practice, to ensure that women has an active and will continue having an active role in peace, safety, and securities for our families and communities to aspiring for peace. I wish to thank you all again, and thank you, Sheikh Intisar, for this opportunity and for this innovative idea. And I look forward with eagerness to listen to my fellow participants and my fellow colleagues who are going to discuss the topic. Thank you so much. And over to you, Karma.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sheikh, for your opening remarks. The impact has been definitely further exacerbated by COVID-19, which added a whole new layer of complexity and challenge for women and mental health, our mental health, all of us included. I will now move to our next panelist. Our next panelist is the ultimate champion of making our Arab society better and more peaceful. Her Highness Sheikha Intisar al-Sabah is the founder and president at the Intisar Foundation. She is on a mission to bring peace. She is a firm believer of how positive psychological intervention can be transformational and has launched the 1 Million Arab Women Initiative that aims to heal and empower 1 million Arab women through the use of drama therapy. Sheikha Intisar, today we are discussing women, war, and mental health. You are someone who has experienced this firsthand during the Kuwait invasion. Please tell us more about how your war experience has led you to start the Intisar Foundation and how you believe your drama therapy program is bringing about sustainable change for women's mental health across the Arab world.
أول شيء بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Thank you each and everyone, starting with Dr. Tariq, Mr. Mohammed, Dr. Samer, كارما, Dr. لينا, وأهم شيء فاطمة على تواجدكم. Thank you for the enthusiasm for a different kind of peace process in the Arab world, a creative process, an innovative process, but also evidence-based, as we will share with you later on. So I would like to start, with your permission, to give you a brief of how we started the foundation and what brought around the vision of women being peace agents in the Arab world. It started, as many of you know, when I was approached by the International Committee for the Red Cross to do a roundtable in Kuwait advocating and raising awareness of the plight of Arab women in war. And during the discussions, one of the recommendations was to have more physical and mental health for women. And when I discussed with the international ICRC what was being given to women affected by war, especially, as you said, Karma, they are the biggest victims of war. Zero focus on the psychological support of women. That shocked me. I didn't think that we, and I'll say we because we are all responsible for supporting other people, and I was shocked that there was no focus whatsoever on the psychological support of women, even though they were the most affected. And with the support of the UN, again, thank you, Dr. Tariq, and the UNHCR, I started with, the thought was, how about we start something supporting women affected by war psychologically? So we started mapping what was being done. So we went to Lebanon and Jordan to see what was being done psychologically for women and why it wasn't bigger. And basically what we realized was there was no focus because of the stigma of her stigma, the woman's stigma, of her family's, shame of her seeking a therapist, of the woman not wanting to be in a room by herself with a therapist. Most scared women don't want to be in a closed room. And the last one was she didn't want to relive her pain. And so we had to find an alternative way, and nothing is better than the arts. And so we looked at the arts and we realized drama therapy, through trial and error, the drama therapy was the best way to go. And I will later on explain to you our latest discovery of why drama therapy is the best way to go. And this is our latest discovery, and it's beautiful. And I will share with you because I know you'll all love why. So one of the things I would like to thank the UN for also is the UN started after the Second World War, and the objective was to stop wars from happening in the future. And this webinar is a beautiful collaboration between two entities, one huge and one fledgling and just starting, about how to stop future wars by moderating, by allowing people to express themselves, by allowing peace within the countries and so within the region. So I just thought it's very interesting that it's the 75th year for the UN and we're having this amazing webinar together. So thank you again, Dr. Tariq. So what is it about drama therapy that makes it desirable for the participants? Number one, it's creative. So people like, let's say, working with their creativity. Our beneficiaries tell their families that they are going to a cultural activity, not a therapy. So sometimes they say it's a therapy, and if there's an aversion to therapy, they can say, we're going to a cultural activity. So that works very well. It works on the mind and the body and the emotions. And it's a community approach. So it's the women getting together, talking about their problems, reenacting their experiences, role-playing, venting, but also moving. And drama therapy encompasses a lot of things under the umbrella of drama therapy. And the great thing about it, it is taught in many universities. So there is evidence on the effect of drama therapy, which is not the same in other smaller therapies. And that's one of the reasons we chose it. One of the reasons for our success is that we worked very smartly. So what we did with the help of the UNHCR, we went to see what was being done and then worked with local NGOs to find the easiest, the simplest, and the cheapest way to start. And so what we do is we collaborate with local NGOs who have the network, they have the know-how, they have the space, and they have the trust of the community. And so we work with local NGOs to bring that amazing group of women who we work with, and we work between 12 to 16 sessions depending on the severity of the group. And the sessions are 3 hours every week, and after that we do a whole year of follow-up, which is once a month. So we basically, thank God, found the perfect formula that works with the women. We have research on the evidence of what we do, and we are making more research, as Dr. Lina will point out later on. And because our whole logistics is local, there is a trust in what we do. And this trust allows the women to feel more, talk more, engage more, and therefore release more. So that is one thing we're very grateful for. And if I may just share with you a little something about what our latest discovery about drama therapy is. So what we realized, and this we've just realized in the past couple of months, is, can we go to the next page? What the difference between drama therapy and other therapies simply is when the body is the first impacted by a trauma, be it war or any shock, the first thing it goes to is the body. So the body is firstly impacted, and then after that it gets to our emotions, and then it gets to our mind. So first the body, so we stop breathing, we freeze, whatever it is. The first impact of trauma is always on the body. And then we start having the emotions of fear, of anxiety, whatever it is. And then it starts being rationalized in our minds. And this triangle is exactly what drama therapy releases. It releases the trauma from the body, from the emotions, and from the cognitive and the narrative. So we do body movements, we allow the women to speak about their emotions, to engage with their emotions, to stop the numbness that usually women or people get when they're traumatized. And then it starts rationalizing in their mind, and they're able to, using their mind at the end, release the memories that are holding that emotion. And this is in drama therapy. I'm not sure 100% yet if it's in any other therapy, but so far what we're finding is it only exists in drama therapy, all three modalities of releasing the emotions or releasing the trauma on a human being. So that is something I thought was very interesting, I wanted to share. And so if you can put all of it, so here it is. So usually people use cognitive approaches, but that you're tackling the mind, but you're not tackling the emotions or the body. And this triangle is why we are able within a very short time to have so much success, so much changes within the women, that Dr. Lena has found it so easy to do all the research and prove that drama therapy works with women to release their trauma and to bring on peace. Some of the symptoms that get in the way of peace are, and these are all trauma related: anger, aggressive behavior, anxiety, and an inability to express oneself. And again, all of these are tackled with drama therapy. That is why also our women find peace so much easier. Our women have done lots of therapies and lots of lectures, all of that. With drama therapy, because it hits all three, they're finding it much easier to be in that very peaceful state, and also to be able to bring that peace to their families, to stop the aggression, to stop the violence within themselves, within their families, within their community, and inshallah, within the region. So I just wanted to share that because I thought that was very interesting. And the last thing is one of the things which found out also, which is beautiful, and we have lots of testimonials from the women, is they became more communicative with their emotions, with themselves and with their families. So one of the beautiful things is the women are allowing their families to be expressive. And all research has proved that expressive people are less violent. So this is an amazing thing. I have a testimonial from one of our beneficiaries, and I think that encompasses everything I've just said. She says, as long as I am in peace, my children are at peace. As long as my children are at peace, the country is at peace.
Indeed,
so that encompasses everything. I mean, I could go on forever and talk about everything we do. We do very, very focused work on how to release trauma in these women, to be able to release it in their families, in their communities, especially that they're women getting together in the same area, and we stay within the same area to create that umbrella of peace within that community. Because if we just empower 5 or 10 women and we leave the community, we've done nothing. So one of our biggest tactics is to stay within the community until we get the tipping point, which is a minimum of 12.5% of the population. With that tipping point, the women will be able to support each other to grow the peace process within themselves, within their families, and within the region they're in. And inshallah, that's a ripple effect that goes to many other communities and ultimately in the Arab world. One of our goals is to have 600 drama therapists and facilitators.
Sheikha Intisar, if I may, because this is exactly one of the questions that...
Okay, fantastic. Then you can ask me questions and I'll stop now. I think enough.
Now, there's a question that we have received from one of our participants saying, you have this ambitious goal of reaching out to 1 million Arab women, but we know that there is a shortage in drama therapists in the Arab world. So how are you planning to overcome this shortage to move forward with your goal?
Okay, so I'm going to be jumping between what I'm supposed to start with and what I'm supposed to end with, but I will answer that question. So we have already signed an agreement with UZEK University in Lebanon to train this year 15 drama therapists. And we're also negotiating with other top universities around the world to also have drama therapists. And this is how we're going to tackle it. But at the end, I'll also tell you how the COVID has allowed us to even grow our ambition and simplify it, because we are going online. So basically, by having more drama therapists and facilitators, we can reach a bigger pool of women. By reaching a bigger pool of women in different countries, we're able to grow the ripple effect in their communities and in the region.
Thank you. Dr. Tariq, we also have a question for you from one of the participants asking, what is the UN mandate for mental health, and especially mental health for women?
First of all, the Secretary General recently has recognized that mental health is one of the key areas that we should be focusing on. And this was well before the pandemic, and last September, the Secretary General has initiated the mental health strategy of the United Nations, by which we look into internally and also externally how we engage into different forms of managing the stress, managing workload, managing conflict, managing issues that impact the stress and well-being of population. And also this was so important during the pandemic to look at how we can structure that. And it is one of the core pillars of the United Nations response plan in this pandemic, and the socio-economic plan of the framework of the United Nations as health and well-being as one of the strategies by which the United Nations is focusing on this particular issue. Is through developing different projects and programs within the different countries. Public health and psychological health and different forms of innovation are what we aim for and what we aspire for. And that's why we are also joining forces with you here to look into different alternative approaches for mental therapy. And in many countries of the world, one of the first events that we started here in our United Nations, Kuwait, was about mental health and well-being. And it was open for internally and for externally to the United Nations to look into that. We have different stress counselors in different forms and in different duty stations who are working and supporting. But because of the situation is huge and the need is high, it is very important that we expand that. Within the limitation of the resources, we will try as much as possible to integrate and to partner with institutions to complement capacities. And this is what we aspire for from also this engagement today. And also my colleagues will be adding more to what I have said.
Well, what better way to increase your capacity than to have more political psychologists? And here we have our next panelist, Dr. Lina Krediye, consultant and senior researcher at the Intisar Foundation. Dr. Krediye, you are a political psychologist and a lecturer at the Lebanese American University. As a Fulbright scholar in Jordan, you study the impact of trauma and resilience on Syrian refugees. Your current, oh, did we lose? Are you still with us? I don't see you anymore. Yes.
Sharing the screen.
All right. So Dr. Krediye's current focus, research focus, is on the power of theater expression and communication as a psychological therapeutical intervention in refugee camps. Dr. Kredi, impact of wars on the mental health of women is an under-researched topic, relatively silenced topic. Therefore, the work you are doing is very avant-gardiste, especially in our region. Please tell us more about the research you have conducted with the Intisar Foundation, your findings, the challenges you're facing, and why you think there is an absolute need for this kind of research and the role of this research to advocate for policy change. Dr. Lina?
Okay, I'm so sorry, guys. It was the quick usual introduction to say hello, everyone, Assalamu alaikum, and thank you for the United Nations Kuwait office to have us all be part of promoting and fostering peace in the region as an NGO and as individuals and as researchers and participants and practitioners. All of us, we really would like to be part of the peacemaking. And Intisar Foundation, something I'm so passionate to work for and be part of the research, because it answers many of the questions I had doing my research for the last 6 years on refugees and on suffering, specifically psychological suffering, mental health. And we will be adding also, it's not only mental, this is another caveat, mental is also physiological, it's highly connected. Neuroscience research is now expanding to look at the mental health relationship to conflicts and to lack of peace. For people who are impacted by trauma, to include, of course, war. So the work we have been doing with Intisar Foundation is focused on civilians. You mentioned Karma, there's a lot of research all over the world on trauma, on war, and most of the trauma impacted is on combatants, on veterans. Very little is done on civilians. And when we come to our region, maybe there is some work done on Palestinian children, but not much on refugees in other parts of the region. And when we discuss refugees, we're talking about vulnerable people and who are actually fleeing their countries to another vulnerable country, whether it's Jordan and Syria and Lebanon. And this is why our focus has been on 2 countries that are also, as host countries, have been impacted, and the trauma the host countries have is impacting also the I'm trying to move my slide to have been impacting the Syrian refugees and Palestinian refugees, changing them from just victims of war to also a burden and becoming perpetrators. And this adds to the trauma on the refugees instead of feeling that they are hosted with comfort, but they have to also suffer from this trauma. So when we discuss the suffering, as Sheikh Intisar mentioned, there is, as refugees, they are suffering, but we have pre-migration. They could be suffering from all the lists that you see on my slides here, from witnessing violent events to destruction of their property, loss of their role, death of a family member, and of course, forced displacement, internal and external. But the issue does not stop there. It could be the road to migration. And as we all know, the Syrian refugees and before the Palestinian refugees have suffered from. And then the post-migration, where they are being hosted. I know in Jordan, they are more like structured. I've worked in camps and off camps. And, their situation could be a little better than the Syrian refugees in Lebanon, but there are common sufferings for in both countries. from insecure living situation, uncertainty of where are we going, and the issue of repatriation and the political issues and the instabilities. As I mentioned, they became no longer just victims, but also perpetrators, and they are suffering from racism and xenophobia and lack of opportunities. Yes, they take jobs, and this is what they are accused of, but also they don't have enough jobs for everyone. Identity confusion, you know, when we're talking about refugees coming to Lebanon or Syria, they're coming to an Arab country. But then they are no longer part of this, but they become with a refugee status that adds to their identity confusion. So there are a lot of trauma that is impacting, and it's ongoing. It's not like it happened once and that's it. So we are dealing with civilians with ongoing trauma. There's a study done on, you know, mental health as the main topic of our forum today. There's a lot of need for mental health counseling, healing, treatment, because of the big numbers that we see from different studies, like this Dutch NGO did work in Lebanon, and they found that, you know, depression is, you know, 43%. You know, half the population are depressed. Are we all going to take medication? Are there enough counseling services? And anxiety disorders, which is also, although it shows it's 26.6%, you know, 30% of the population. Imagine, you know, it's a lot of people. You know, you know, and it's not even when we discuss post-traumatic stress disorder, which is more physiological in addition to mental. We see that when I did the study in Lebanon in camps, of course Lebanese off camps, I found really high post-traumatic stress disorder, which also I found that it is highly related to violence and to aggression, because they have low impulse control, they're angry, they're unforgiving, they have a lot of psychological issues. You know, I can discuss this at a further study, but it is really high. And the problem at that time, which I found the solution with Intisar Foundation, is I found very little clinics, counseling services that deal with such issues. You know, the UN does have offices, but there is more needed to actually help those impacted. So definitely mental health and psychosocial services for refugees are very important. And this is where we need to look at, you know, their hopelessness, their psychosomatic pain, you know, the physiological and the mental and the psychological symptoms they suffer from. You know, the aggressive behavior, the anger, domestic violence. It's not only men hitting women, but women hitting their children or becoming violent. So this gendered also behavior that we need to look at. Lack of productivity. It's not enough to give them microfinancing and give them money and to be productive, but they need to be mentally and psychologically able to produce and do better. Maladaptive behavior is another aspect which also adds to the need for mental health and psychosocial services. As Sheikh Intisar mentioned, and most of you are well aware, there's not enough services, it's scarce, it's underfunded. Lebanon and Jordan have the highest refugee population, and we're talking about a population of the Lebanese who need also services, who are lacking, so now we're adding refugees that need also services. So in Jordan, there are only 2 mental health professionals per 100,000 residents of the country. In Lebanon, there are 1.5 mental health professionals per 100,000 residents of the country. So there are situational issues, and you know, we call them like external factors, but also dispositional factors. External factors, it's expensive, not enough, too far from where they live, they have to commute, and it's not easy to commute to most of them. Lack of outreach, as also Sheikha mentioned, stigmatization, lack of awareness, cultural barriers is a taboo. You know, I'm not crazy to go to see a psychiatrist or a psychologist. mistrust in what is around and what is available around them. Linking this to peace is very important, because we have to look at the foundation of our communities. We always blame politics and politicians and global and regional and local, but we have to look at the people, because wars destroy not only buildings, but also human beings. So if those human beings are destroyed, then we cannot build peace. And when we discuss peace from the bottom up, men and women to be, able to produce and to be effective and to be, then where we look at their human security in a way where they can actually be part of having an effective security and peaceful community. For sustainable peace, hence, the voices of women, but strong women, should be included in projects that have an ending war and suffering in conflict zone areas. I'm not talking about being, moderators or mediators. Definitely they have to be, but also as in their communities. So at Intisar Foundation, our aim is to empower women, trauma-impacted women, socioeconomically disadvantaged, refugees, and others, to express their voices, their wants and needs. Usually they tend to be less vocal. And all of this help us form a strong foundation for bottom-up peace building. Why drama therapy? I'm not going to go much into this, but definitely Sheikh Intisar gave an excellent idea that it is not stigmatizing. You're on a theater, you're talking about your story. It's like moving from reality to kind of fiction, but it's a story, your story. You're expressing yourself, you're getting your anger out. You're dealing with other people. You're no longer in your own bubble, but you're out there. Our programs, we have been really connecting well with local and trusted NGOs within camps. Drama therapy uses body, voice, and mind. So it is individual and collective ability. It promotes catharsis, meaning express yourself, say what makes you angry. But over time, with all the sessions we do, we noticed that this became better, and we'll explain this even better. It improves resilience, not only becoming numb to what's happening around us, but being to stand up and be productive. So in terms of drama therapy, it covers, and also Sheikha mentioned this, the situational factors, the dispositional factors, and the social and family support. We're taking them from their home, from whatever adds to their trauma, to a safer place. Could it be the theater? Or, as we are now expanding into a virtual platform. In terms of lack of trust, we're building bridges of communication by strengthening women's ability to express themselves. It's a social and family support, more social openness, more collective work. So our findings from the research we've done, most of it, the one that already published, is qualitative work, because we believe that the narrative of those women is very important. It doesn't mean that we didn't do quantitative, we did, but the qualitative was the main focus in the research already published. We have other research in process that has been submitted, and plans for future in 21, 22 to be done also. So from our findings, 78% of our participants experienced increased self-esteem, very important. Reduction in PTSD. PTSD was, if I may say this in Arabic, فالج لا تعالج. It used to say, there's no treatment for PTSD. No, there has been a reduction in post-traumatic stress disorder, because people were able to reduce their, when we discuss the neuroscience aspect of it, we'll see how some parts of the brain take over if you train the other part that was impacted by PTSD and improve cognitive and emotional and memory behavior. 93.75% of our participants experienced reduction in depression. 75% experienced reduction in anxiety. 43% plus of our participants experienced improvement in satisfaction in the situation of their life. So, and positive emotions, positive experiences, they started to be more positive and less expressing their negative emotions. So this is the topic, the research, if you're interested to look at the power of theater, expression, and communication. This is the published article that we actually wanted to title, and it is titled as Psychological Therapeutical Intervention. So it's an intervention in the emotions and the physiological and the communication abilities of people. It's an experience. So, yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. It's
yes.
just because we are a little bit pressed on time, and I wanted to just say that your numbers are extremely heartwarming. Thank you for sharing those, because we had many questions asking about the percentages.
Yes.
I'm very happy that you replied. I just want to give you one question from the participants and then give you another 3 minutes to continue. Maybe you can also answer the question that has been shared with us. Is there research being done in the Arab world about other creative therapies? And if not, why not Intisar Foundation to pioneer these researchers? So that's one question I leave with you, and I'm sorry to have interrupted, but just needed to ring the alarm bell.
Yes, no problem. Actually, so the question is about, is there in the Arab world other NGOs or other institutions?
Creative therapies, research on creative therapies.
I'm not aware of any other research on creative therapy. There could be, but we have been doing research, and actually we have an excellent team, which I would like to discuss, saying that they have been doing great work, like Sarah Saki and others, and the drama therapists who have been researching. We didn't find any research related to drama therapy or creative therapy. So we are pioneers in this. If there is any, I would like to also find that, but up till now I didn't really find any creative therapy research. No. So I don't know if I answered the question here.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So shall I continue?
If we can wrap up in the next minute and a half, so that I can give the floor to our special guest to speak from her experience with this program.
Okay, I'm sorry. So we noticed, as I mentioned, reduction of negative effect, improvement of positive effect, and more community work. Also, I would like to mention something about our future projects. Because drama therapy adds something about empathy, role playing. So empathy is very important in peacemaking, which it's about the ability to communicate effectively. It's about standing up, not standing by, uncovering what's below the surface. So it is very important in peace building. We are going to work more on this in our post and in our questionnaires. We are going to also do neuroscience and drama therapy, because it impacts the brain and specifically the prefrontal cortex, which is the decision-making process, is highly impacted by trauma. So we would like to study and see how drama therapy moves, the emotional and the memory affected area to other areas where we can be more positive and less negative. We're not talking about complete healing, but at least, people becoming more productive and able to think better and be more productive. Definitely there is a lot of need for more research, and we are on the right track. We are going to do more and more. We will reach 1 million Arab women, hopefully more, by doing the drama therapy, by advocating other NGOs to join us and to do more work, and doing it online. Because this COVID-19 has put limitations on actual field work, but we are doing a lot of online sessions, and those online sessions are doing really well, and it opens to the whole world. So Arab women everywhere, not only in the Arab region, because there are refugees, and migrants who also have traumas and need to be also helped. So our goal is to make this new creative approach to helping women become more, used you know, for us, we're going to definitely do more, but by other NGOs, and to get the support, more support from the United Nations, and to have a voice to reduce war and to resolve conflicts, not to manage them, to resolve them and to attain peace. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lina. That was truly inspiring, the work that you are doing. And I really hope that this work continues and it has more outreach for you to reach this amazing target of 1 million women.
Thank you.
The Intisar Foundation's community-based drama therapy program has proven to be transformational. The program has empowered women to become agents of peace through embracing their own difficult experiences. Our special guest today is Mrs. Fatima Khalife, a courageous woman to say the least. Fatima is a Syrian woman who has suffered a great deal from the war in her country. She is one of the 1 million Arab women the Intisar Foundation is working with to transform into agents of peace. A Syrian refugee in Lebanon, Fatima is the voice of inspiration in empowering women, and her testimony today is a tribute to all refugees in the Arab world. Fatima, أهلا وسهلا فيكي.
أهلا وسهلا.
لنا جميعا أنك تكوني معنا اليوم. أهلا وسهلا.
كيفكم؟
الحمد لله، تفضلي.
أنا فاطمة خليفة من سوريا، عمري 43 سنة. أنا قصة نجاح بعد تعرفي على مؤسسة انتصار والشيخة انتصار. طلعت من سوريا بال 2013 وصلت على لبنان.
My name is Fatima Khalifa. I am 43 years old. I believe that I am a success story after I have had the chance to work with Intisar Foundation and the efforts of Her Highness Sheikh Intisar al-Sabah. I left Syria in 2013.
أنا اليوم مديرة استوديو السما. هو مشروع بزنس صغير بمخيم برج البراجنة. طبعا هذا نجاح بعد شغل 2 سنين تقريبا مع مؤسسة انتصار على تشافي التام.
I am now the director of a small business in Burj al-Barajni camp, where I help other refugee women work on traditional Palestinian embroidery. This success story would not have been possible if it wasn't for my 2-year-long journey with Intisar Foundation.
في بداية الأمر أنا تعرفت على مؤسسة الشيخة انتصار كبرنامج تدريبي معالجة نفسية بالدراما، فكانت هي فسحة للرياحة عن العمل وتضييع وقت.
At first, my experience with Intisar Foundation was through the drama therapy program they held inside Shatila camp. At the beginning, for me, it was an experience to let go of the stress of work and have a little bit of fun.
بعد 3 جلسات من المتابعة اكتشفت إنه لا، هي في شيء أكبر من هيك، أكبر من التسلية وأكبر من إنه مجرد مسرح وعم ضيع وقت ونفس فيه بالضحك واللعب.
After about 3 sessions, I discovered that the program was not just about having fun or using theater. I discovered that there was something so much deeper to it.
كانت الفرصة إنه أتعرف على التنفس اللي عندي، كيف طبيعة تنفسي. كنت نسيانة طبيعة التنفس من بداية الحرب من 2011.
For example, I had difficulties breathing ever since the war in 2011, and during the sessions, I was able to regain my breath.
وأكيد نسيانة كمان حركات بجسمي أو أعضاء بجسمي كمان من بداية الحرب. صرت أكتشف إنه أنا هدول الأعضاء أبداً ما عم حركهم، أبداً ما عم بستعملهم. كل اللي عم بستعمله هو صوتي للصريخ بس، للغضب.
For example, there was also my body movement, which had become extremely restricted since the Civil War. I realized that my body was not helping me express myself. In fact, I was only using my voice to scream during anger.
تقريباً بعد 5 جلسة أو 6 جلسة يمكن بالضبط، كان عندي الشعور التام بالأمان بهاي الجلسات. لدرجة أني تحدثت بأشياء أنا ما كنت أقدر أتحدث فيها حتى بالعيادات النفسية اللي كنت أنا أراجعها.
After about 5 or 6 sessions, I felt safe enough to be able to speak about things that I had not previously disclosed to anyone, including my psychologist, who I had been seeing on a regular basis.
بأدق التفاصيل، بأدق الأشياء الحساسة، قدام الناس، يعني قدام المدربين، قدام الستات اللي أنا أصلاً عم بتدرب معهم، اللي إحنا كان عددنا لا بأس به بالقاعة. كانت عندي هاي القدرة إنه أنا أعبر بكل صراحة بكل مصداقية عن أشياء خفية من 8 سنين أو 9 سنين.
Throughout the program, the fact that I was working with a group of women that was around 21 other women besides me, 20 women besides me, I felt safe and secure enough to be able to talk about things that I had been holding inside me for the last 8 years.
وهون بلش البحث عن فاطمة القديمة طبعاً. فاطمة ما قبل اللجوء، فاطمة ما قبل الدخول إلى المخيم، فاطمة ما قبل الفقدان لعدد كبير من عائلتي وأهلي. من هون بلشت نقطة الصفر عند فاطمة خليفة.
And here I started my journey to find my old self. Fatima pre-migration, Fatima pre-war, and Fatima pre-losing her family members. This was my start point to become a new person.
لأنه أنا كنت بسوريا شخصية عامة وشخصية لي قيمتي بالمجتمع وعندي مردود مالي وسيدة مستقلة مادياً. الحرب واللجوء خلاني سيدة أو لاجئة. اللجوء خلاني لاجئة بمخيمات اللجوء، فاقدة لهويتي الشخصية، لا أشعر بالأمان مطلقاً، غير متحكمة بتصرفاتي، شديدة الغضب والعنف على أولادي.
When I was in Syria, I had a certain level of social status. I was a financially independent businesswoman. But when the war happened, I was transformed only to a refugee. And then living in the camps has turned me into a person that is completely different. I became extremely depressed. I became very aggressive towards my children, and I started to suffer with the overcrowding and difficult living conditions inside the camp.
فمن هون بلشت أتنفس أكثر عمق، ووقف أكثر وفكر أكثر، ويصير عندي تواصل أمراً. أول شيء مع أولادي، ثاني شيء بمحيط عملي، ثالث شيء بمحيط المجتمع اللي أنا فيه.
I started to breathe more, I started to think more, and I started to become more aware of my feelings. And my communication with myself and my children and within my professional life changed and became so much better.
من هون بلشت رحلة نجاحي. بعتبرها رحلة نجاح بفتخر فيها بعد سقوط 9 سنين أو 9 سنين تقريباً، مع أولادي، مع الحرية المالية اللي أنا وصلت لها اليوم، مع كل الناس اللي رجعت شفتهم وتعرفت عليهم بعد هاي الفترة. كيف صار التواصل أنا واستقبالي للشخص الآخر، كيف صرت أشعر بالسلام لما أتواصل مع الأشخاص الآخرين، كيف أقدر أوصل صوتي بطريقة مسموعة وواضحة، كيف أقدر أوصل مطالبي بطريقة شفافة وواضحة ومجدية بنتيجة جيدة جداً.
And after almost 9 years of suffering, I realized that I can use the calmness in my voice and the peace within to communicate better with people within my professional and personal life and be able to reach the goals that I want to reach. And I believe that this was some of the steps that helped me get on my journey towards personal and professional success.
كانت أول خطوة إلي بالنجاح هي إنه أنا أعمل مشروع صغير بزنس بقلب مخيم برج البراجنة. اليوم عم بيشتغل معي 15 سيدة من اللاجئات السوريات والفلسطينيات وحتى بعض اللبنانيات.
One of the first steps towards my transition to becoming a more successful person was being able to start my own business, which is a cooperative business that actually helps other refugee women within the camp, around 15 of them.
طبعاً من امتناني وشكري لمؤسسة انتصار وللشيخة انتصار بحكي عنهم كتير بشكل عام، وين ما كنت، بأي مجلس، بأي مناسبة، بأي لقاء حتى عمل. وهدفي اليوم إنه مؤسسة انتصار تكون عم بتساعدني أساعد الستات اللي أنا عم بشتغل معاهم اليوم ليوصلوا للحالة اللي أنا وصلت لها.
And as a part of my appreciation for Intisar Foundation and Her Highness Sheikha Intisar Salah, I am here today to thank them and to also say that I would very much like for the foundation to be able to reach the group of women that I am currently working with to empower them as I have been empowered.
لأنه هذا رح يكون نجاح تكملة سلسلة نجاحات لفاطمة خليفة، لأي سيدة لاجئة بالمخيمات ولا أكثر عدد أكبر من الستات. يعني مش بس أنا ما حابة يوقف التعاون بيني وبين مؤسسة انتصار بس عند حدود ال 15 سيد الموجودين معي اليوم، لأنه حتى أنا هدفي يكون عندي أكثر سيدات مستفيدات مادياً.
For me, this is the start of a chain of success, not just for myself or for the 15 women whom I work with, but for all the women that I can possibly reach through my business and through my knowledge of Intisar Foundation.
لكن هدفي يكون تعاون أكبر مبدئياً بقلب المخيم اللي أنا موجودة فيه، وأملي إنه يكون أوسع بكل المخيمات اللي موجودة أو بكل مطارح اللجوء اللي موجودة بلبنان.
And my hope is for Intisar Foundation to be able to implement its programs not only where in the camp where I live and work, but rather in all the camps in Lebanon and where there are refugees in Lebanon.
بتشكر الكل، كتير مبسوطة أنا على هالفرصة اللي أتاحت لي أشوفكم كلياتكم. بتشكرك كتير شيخة انتصار، وعن جد أنا ممنونة، وبتمنى إنه أكون عم بوصل الرسالة بشكلها الصح بطريقتها الصح. أتمنى إنه أكون صح. شكراً كثير للجميع.
أستاذة فاطمة، يعني ألهمتينا بصراحتك وبشجاعتك. شكراً إنك موجودة معنا اليوم. شكراً على إنك قدرت تحكينا عن تجربتك. في سؤال من البارتيسيبنتس اللي معنا، رح أقوله بالإنجليزي، يمكن المترجمة عندك فيها ترجم لك. How did drama therapy shape your life, but what was the most memorable experience you had during the sessions with the Intisar Foundation?
أكثر شغلة إنه فضت السواد اللي جوات قلبي. يعني أنا ما كنت أستقبل قبل الجلسات بالدراما، ما كنت أستقبل أي شيء من برا من الخارج، لأنه أصلاً عندي جوا حاجز وعندي جوا وجع. لما فرغت هذا الوجع وهذا الحاجز الداخلي صار استقبالي للأشياء اللي من برا أنظف، صارت تفوت، صارت تلاقي مكان. يعني صرت إذا أسمع نصيحة أعرف إذا هاي النصيحة مفيدة أو لا، هذا الطريق صح أو لا. أما قبل الجلسات أنا كل اللي كان عندي هو عدائية ونرجسية.
Before the sessions, I was extremely resistant and I was not accepting of what others would tell me. After we started the sessions, I realized that I became more open, I had less aggression, and I had a better belief of what people were willing to tell me.
وغيرت لي الجلسات كمان أهم نقطة بحياتي اللي هي أولادي. أنا هم المكسب الوحيد اللي اليوم كسبته من بعد الحرب بسوريا. عم حاول اليوم أبني علاقة كتير جديدة بيني وبين أطفالي. عفواً هم مش أطفال، عندي طفلة صغيرة، هم صاروا كبار للأسف. راح من عمري كتير، راحت هاي الفترة ما كنت أشوف كيف عم يكبر أولادي قدامي. اليوم عم حاول أشوف كيف فيني أعوض هاي الفترة اللي راحت، وكيف فيني أجنب طفلتي الصغيرة كل المآسي اللي مروا فيها أولادي الثلاثة الكبار. يعني كيف فيني اليوم أكون أم كتير منيحة مع بنتي بطريقة كتير سلسة، كتير بسلام، كتير بدون عدوانية.
Another area that I benefited from in the sessions was with my children. Unfortunately, during those 8 years of depression, I was not able to be there for my 3 older children. But now I'm trying to make it up for my youngest daughter, whom I'm going to do everything possible to protect her from the psychological distress that my other children had to experience.
شكراً أستاذة فاطمة. شكراً جزيلاً. يعني I think Fatima Khalifa's intervention has really moved us all, and is a clear indicator and a testimony of the amazing work that the foundation is doing. Let us welcome our next panelists, who will be able to speak to us more to the plight of refugees and women and their mental health as refugees. Please join me to welcome Dr. Samer Haddadin, who is the head of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR office in Kuwait. He brings with him over 25 years of experience with this UN agency. He has served in many countries across the region, including Yemen, Libya, and Saudi Arabia. Dr. Haddadin, on June 20, just 2 days ago, the world observed World Refugee Day. Today, around 80 million people around the world have been forced to flee their homes because of conflict or persecution. Those include, of course, refugees and IDPs, internally displaced persons. As victims of war, women suffer disproportionately in terms of mental and physical health. This issue raises a great deal of consequence that must be addressed on a community level, but also on a national level and on a regional level. Alas, in Arab countries that host a high number of refugees, there remains a gap in the availability of mental health services, and a very small number of refugees will either seek or have access to mental health care support. We would love to hear your thoughts, your insights on this, and the work that UNHCR is doing to address some of the mental health challenges that women refugees are facing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank Her Highness Sheikh Intisar and Dr. Tariq for this opportunity. The work you are doing, Sheikh Intisar, we had met before, and allow me to share with the audience what I described. It's in Bihar, from the work that you are doing, from the new areas that you are exploring. It requires lots of courage, lots of confidence, and going outside the box, not the regular box, but even the bigger box, because these areas are really new and unexplored. Not very many people would have the courage to go to that direction. So God bless. بالتوفيق إن شاء الله. I would like also to tell my sister Fatima that she should not be embarrassed or having any negative feelings about being a refugee. There are none of us is not in a way or another a refugee or coming from a refugee family. The Prophet himself was a refugee. الرسول عليه الصلاة والسلام يا فاطمة كان لاجئ. سيدنا عيسى المسيح عليه السلام كان لاجئ. أبو الأنبياء إبراهيم كان لاجئ. أينشتاين كان لاجئ. From there, I would like to say that I was not only moved, I was inspired by Fatima. When we say I am moved, usually comes from emotions of certain kind, but I say that refugees are power, refugees are opportunities, refugees are abilities. This is why when we talk about refugees, and there are studies now coming out speaking about academically approved approaches, that refugees contribute to building peace. The other dimension here is the refugee woman. Women usually suffer more, not because they are weakest or weaker than others, but because a lot of life elements are attached to women. They are the source of life. They are the source of food. They feed us. And we are fed by women from the moment we are created. And after birth, they feed us from breastfeeding until we grow up. The women are builders. in my village there was a term say الرجل جنة والمرأة بنة. البناء is more important than يعني الجنة. The term says that women are builders. So when building stops, women life stops. When women stop, building stops. Anyway, going from there directly to the issue of refugees, as you rightly mentioned, I don't know how I can share my screen. I will try my best as I speak, but I'm not very much with technology. Here I can maybe share screen. Do you see my screen now? Can you see my screen?
No.
No, you cannot, because I share, I would say share now. Can you see the screen now?
Yes.
I thank you, because I see, okay, thank you very much. Just quickly looking at the overall situation. This slide shows the numbers of refugees at global level, or forcibly displaced people, refugees, and internally displaced people. We have more than 79.5, which is almost more than 1% of the world population. Speaking about one out of 97 people is a refugee. So when we say it's a little bit more 1%, it's 26 million refugees, 45.7 internally displaced people, and 4.2 asylum seekers, people who will be refugees. The number increases by the hour. Most of the refugees and displaced people are in countries of low income, like Jordan, like Lebanon, like Iraq now. Also, the economy of Iraq is different, but the situation in Iraq is like Yemen, Africa. Most of the refugees that we have globally are either coming from Muslim or within Muslim countries. So, and we speak about the MENA region, we have the majority of those, the largest refugee population is Syrians. The largest host country of refugees is Turkey. Pakistan is number 3, speaking about the Muslim world. Now, in the Arab world, being one of the critical regions in producing or hosting refugees, when we speak about the protection of refugees, which is the main mandate of UNHCR, the protection, if I may say quickly, is the ability of individuals, regardless of sex, age, political background, race, religion, to access human rights as per international instruments. The international protection situation is being led by UNHCR in the Arab world, in the MENA region, North Africa and Middle East. UNHCR is present in this region since the 50s. As a matter of fact, the very first work of UNHCR outside Europe was for the Algerian refugee situation in Algeria in 1956, if my memory is still fresh. We are present in the Arab world since the 50s in Egypt, in Algeria, and at a larger scale, we have presence in starting from late 80s, early 90s. We have one of the most protracted refugee situations, including the Palestinian situation, and in Tenduf we have the refugee camp there of the Sahara situation. None of the Arab countries in the Asian part of the Arab world is a member of any refugee-related instrument, except Yemen. all the Arab countries in North Africa are members of the 1951 Convention and the 1969 Convention for the African Union on Refugees, except Libya for the 1951 Convention. Libya is not party to the 1951 Convention, and Morocco is not party to the 1969 Convention, but is party to the 1951 Convention. Away from the very technical terminologies, international human rights instruments are there in the Arab world. Most of the Arab countries are party to the, for example, Convention on Political and Social and Economic Rights, and CEDAW, and Convention on Rights of the Child, etc. But very few of them are party to International Convention on Refugees for many sensitivities. Some of it are political, some of it mainly related to the Palestinian issue, and some of it related to just political and demographic challenges facing the countries. At the national level, almost none of the Arab countries have a durable national asylum system. But having said that, I've been working with the UNHCR for the last 27 years. I served in regional positions. In one region, I was covering the MENA region on refugee law, capacity building, and refugee law, promotion of refugee law and training for staff and for government officials. I work with almost every government in the Arab world. There is no, to be straightforward on that, there is no feeling against refugees as such. It is the politicization of the problems of refugees that can come from time to time, that can create problems and challenges to which is something that the international law and UNHCR does not approve. The issue of asylum is not and should not be politicized. It's not a political issue. It's a human rights issue, and the duty to protect refugees falls on the shoulder of the country that is hosting these refugees. But because most of the countries that are receiving refugees are countries with their own challenges, we usually interfere as UNHCR, representing the international community, to support the countries in carrying this heavy responsibility under the international burden sharing concept. And with that, we work with the refugees and governments on providing the protection and the durable solutions for them. This is a very quick look at the theater, if I may say, on speaking about theatrical treatment. So the theater is complex. The theater is in the MENA region is full of shall I say drama? Yeah, using theater terminology. There is huge, but there are potentials and there are gifts amongst those here, the stars of this drama that are who are the refugees. Women, as I said, are not vulnerable. They are survivals. They are strong. And this is why the price they pay is higher than any other price. I like personally to say it. Also, in many humanitarian literature, women are categorized as the vulnerable groups, amongst the vulnerable groups, but they should not be seen as such. Almost more than half of the population of refugees are refugee women and children. But as I say, those are the survivals. They survive this before the displacement even starts. How many women have been arrested by the local authorities, persecuted by local authorities because her husband is a political activist or because her son is a political activist? How many women were violated because of being a member of this tribe or that tribe? How many women have been violated by her own protectors, usually as a child or as a woman by her tribe or family, or because she was considered violating the social norms. So before the displacement, women are either because of themselves or because they are women, because of their gender, are facing challenges that men usually do not face because of their gender before the displacement. During the displacement, usually displacements that produce refugees, that's the forced displacement or the displacement that produce IDPs, are usually not done in a nice manner. People don't book in hotels to go and book in flights. They run in the middle of the night. One child, one of my colleagues met a child. She says that, I don't know why I escaped. I heard my father says in the middle of the night, run, and I ran. It's been 5 years since that word. She was a child, a little child. She jumped from her bed, running, just run. Apparently, when the story, we discovered the story, the whole family was killed. She was one of the survivors from the village, but all her family was killed, including her father, brothers. So during, sorry.
Sorry to interrupt, but I think the question that we just received from one of the participants fits well in at this point in the discussion. Thank you for sharing that story about this young girl. The question is, are the challenges that refugees face different or harder than those who are internally displaced?
It depends. They, you know, when the international community was preparing the 1951 Convention on Refugees, they were talking about all refugees, including the IDPs, internally displaced people. They face the same challenges. There is no way we can say that internal displacement is easier than, but sometimes when you are persecuted or threatened, when your rights are lost in your own country, it's harder than when you lose it outside. Sometimes the asylum outside the country puts you in front of new challenges like language, like culture, like visa, like legal status. But I was saying that when the drafters of the convention, 1951 convention, was putting the draft of this convention, they were speaking about internal refugees and external refugees. But at that time, they preferred to keep it for the external refugees, that's the refugees who cross the international borders, and keep IDPs as a separate group, because this was the protection of the nationals is the responsibility of the state. So some of the drafters thought that if we include local refugees, that is the IDPs, in the convention, we are trying to find an escape for states to escape from their responsibilities. But anyway, the challenges are the same. Sometimes cases of internal displacement create more challenges on the people more than the external displacement. So we should not discriminate based on that.
To sadly ask you to wrap up, just so
yes,
we can.
I'm closing.
Has its restrictions.
Yes. No. I am wrapping up immediately. Give me 1 minute. I will finish everything. After displacement, women usually face the responsibilities. As you can see here, for example, I brought the example of the Syrian refugees. 20%, 21% of the refugees are women. 29 are women in the Iraqi. If we add the children to that, they are always above 50%. To meet this as well, UNHCR is very sensitive in recruiting women. The international policy of the United Nations, the balance, the gender balance. I have here the figures. We don't need to go through. At headquarters, we have more women than men. In the field, almost. And globally, it is almost, we are close to that. This is the last slide. UNHCR focuses on giving the woman equal and meaningful participation in the community. When we address the problem of refugees, we have representative of refugee women, individual registration for women, individual documentation for women, food and non-food items distribution and management. Women should be there to prevent any discrimination and any abuse, and prevention and response to sexual and gender-based violence. There are lots of huge programs all over the world, and economic empowerment of women. These 5 obligations or commitments of the High Commissioner to Refugee Women. This was my last, and I would welcome any question or comment on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Haddadin, for this extremely informative presentation. It's very different when we see things in front of us in numbers, and we're grateful for you for that. I'm very eager to listen to our final panelist of the day, Mr. Mohammed Nasiri. Mr. Nasiri is a senior UN official, has served with the UN for more than 2 decades. He's currently the Director of Arab States and Asia Pacific region for UN Women. He is the first man to hold that post and of regional director within UN Women, and the only one thus far. Mr. Nasiri, you have been fully engaged in addressing cultural and religious forms of, from a gendered perspective. You are a supporter of women's rights in the region, and particularly in the engagement of women in peace processes. In my introduction, I mentioned that 2020 is the 20th anniversary of the Women, Peace and Security Agenda and the 5-year anniversary of the SDGs. If we recall language from Security Council Resolution 1889, it speaks on the importance of concrete health services, including inter alia mental health. We also recall SDG 3, good health and well-being, SDG 5, gender equality, and Goal 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. I'm curious to hear more about your work UN Women is doing in the region to economically empower women and increase women participation in decision-making, and finally, hopefully ending violence against women. The floor is yours, Mr. Nasiri. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Karma, and I go by Mohammed. It's much easier and lighter. I was in the Arab states until last year, and now I'm in the Asia Pacific. ولكن يصعب علي أن آتي بعد السيدة فاطمة لأنك اختزلت ما نعمل من أجله سيدة فاطمة بألق وبهاء شديدين. But maybe allow me to start from where Samer ended about the victimization, but also the agency of women. I think it's very important to start, as you rightly said, Samer, to look at women as agents of change, not only as victims. Indeed, they are the ones who are paying the highest price in every single context, but they are also the ones who can push for change and make sustainable and durable peace a reality, not a dream. We've been reading over the past few weeks in various media that those countries that have been best managing the COVID pandemic are those who have been and are led by women leaders, whether it was in Germany or Norway, Belgium, Iceland, New Zealand, Finland, South Korea. The head of disease control is a woman. Of course, we have to look at the onset that most of these countries have the benefit of well-developed, not in conflict, and have high human development. But there is something there to be said about a leadership style that is different, that is inclusive, compassionate, and calm. There are traits that are different from what many traditionally associate with good leadership, traits such as decisive, strong, affirmative, decision-making without consultation. In peace-building karma, we see the same. Those who are most likely to wage war are those who are invited to the table for peace negotiations. Yet, they do not represent their community's vision for what peace might look like. It's time we shift away from this and that we recognize the inherent value of inclusive processes, whatever they may be. Women are not more peaceful than men, but women have a different approach. The more inclusive the process, the more sustainable. We really have a chance now to rethink our values and what we cherish in decision making. Let us do it right. Let us promote in all processes that our governments or the UN can influence a dialogue that is representative of the community it will serve. And this is where I need to underpin and underscore the invaluable work that you've been doing in the Intisar Foundation in building the societal, the psychosocial makeup of that infinite resource of power, that of women. And the psychotherapy work that you've been doing cannot be undermined. As Lina said earlier, you're going to be reaching 1 million Arab women soon. And that is a power that can change the future of all of us to the better. I have some reflections here, Karma, and I will be very happy to listen to queries and questions. But one of the common messages coming from all women affected by conflict, that the progress is too slow. Political will is not strong enough, and pushback against the rights and interests of women, threatening the progress we've made and pushing further away those who need the resolve and support most. Despite the many good words, agreements, discussions, and events that have taken place, change is still not real, and it needs to be, and that we need to respond to this call. This year we will, as you rightly said, celebrate the 20 years of the Women, Peace and Security Council resolution. And I think we need to bring to the table work and action that further closes the gap between words and action. Beyond formal peace agreements, and again, Samer has referred implicitly to that in his intervention, women also play a very important role in the new and emerging peace and security concerns we see, including preventing violent extremism. Misogyny and support for violence against women are crucial and overlooked factors in propelling people, including women, to support violent extremism. It's interesting because we've done a research last year as UN Women and Monash University of Australia in both the Asia and the Arab states regions. And we found that there is no correlation between violent extremism and degrees of religiosity, of age, of gender, level of education, employment, geographical area. There was only one common factor between violent extremism and that of misogyny. And misogyny is defined as both fear and hatred of women and or the feminine. Hostile, sexist attitudes towards women and support of violence against women are the factors more strongly associated with the support of violent extremism in all the countries that we've done the research in. So this brings us back to the agency of women and the role that women can play in this. Unfortunately, we've also seen that after conflict, in the economic recovery and the rebuilding of societies, women are primarily limited to be cornered in the microcredit spaces, micro-enterprise, while the large-scale reconstruction are dominated, unfortunately, by men and overwhelmingly benefiting men. Within the challenges faced by the Arab region, and as Samer said, unfortunately, we've been destined to deal with the forced migration and conflict for decades. There lies opportunities to build on the words and intentions of women and the peace and security agenda. We can address this by integrating women into the discourse and into building back the societies. This can bring real change to the lives of all of us. I do not want to leave without necessarily talking about some of the progress that has happened, because it's not all negative and it's not all bad. And there has been a lot of progress that we need really to take stock of in the Arab world. We've witnessed last year the historic launch of Syria's constitutional committee. Women make up close to 30% of the committee and almost 28% of the smaller drafting committee. In Lebanon, where you are now, we've seen women take to the streets and at the forefront of calls for a more equal society, and the president committed to meeting these asks and look into having even a unified personal status law to support the emancipation of women. 5 countries across the region have women, peace and security national action plans. Another 2 are in the making. Across Yemen and Libya, we've seen efforts to increase women's representation in the political dialogue processes. So there are things that are happening, and women are still not losing breath, are not losing the hope. The perseverance of women is infinite, and this brings us back again to the work that you're doing in Intisar Foundation, because every single support makes a difference. And with, unfortunately, what we are going to see in the medium and the longer term with the economic fatigue post-COVID, we really need to remind ourselves that this and what we're doing now is a wise investment. The investment that you've been doing in Intisar Foundation, the investment that has been done by the UN at large is a wise investment, and we need to continue putting a lot of effort and financing in that. I stop here, Karma, and I go back to you.
Thank you very much for your...
You are still muted, I think.
No, you can't hear me? I unmuted myself. You can't hear me? I think Muhammad cannot hear me. Only Muhammad cannot hear me, maybe. But everyone else can hear me well, right? I think we've lost.
سامعينك كويس احنا، يمكن مشكلة عند محمد.
مشكلة عند.
Yes, we can hear you.
بس عندي سؤال له، خليني أشوف إذا حيقدر يسمع لي. I think we lost. I
can hear you loud and clear now.
Wonderful. Women's voices must be heard. Can you hear me?
Absolutely, loud and clear.
Fantastic. So one of the questions we received from our participants is, how can you support further initiatives and programs like the one at the Intisar Foundation, and how can the work that the foundation is doing be translated to policy strategies on national levels, on country levels, and not remain ad hoc initiatives that are being put forward by civil society? So how can we close that circle of bringing the stakeholders together to make this kind of work national strategy or national policy?
Again, we're coming into this space later than others, but as the resident coordinator, Dr. Sheikh, said, finally the Secretary General of the United Nations have recognized and have put forward last September a framework on the mental health. And we do agree, unfortunately, that it is an area that is most undervalued globally, and especially in our region. What we see is a few foundations, maybe you are the only one, in addition to the civil society in the region, who are attending to that. And what we need to do is, when we are taking the 20-year anniversary on the women, peace and security, we need to look into how are we look at how comprehensive the Women, Peace and Security National Action Plans are. And if we can look into integrating into the national action plans when we update them, a chapter that looks after the mental health. Because this is an integral part of moving forward and of contributing positively to processes that are going to support societies to be more peaceful. We've heard it firsthand from the Sayyida Fatima when she was talking about how she has been a more positive force in her own community, whether it was her own nuclear family or largest community, when she did attend to the therapy. So this is something that we need to look at, and we need to update these Women, Peace and Security Action Plans accordingly. Once we do that, you automatically have a commitment from the member states to invest. Of course, there is a long way between having a plan that may end up in a drawer and unpacking this plan into actions and make a roadmap for implementation on the ground. And this is where we, as the UN at large, not only UN Women, stand ready to unpack and work with you on that.
Thank you, Mohammed. I think you've identified the vehicle through which this change can happen, which, and I firmly believe, just like you, that the National Action Plans for Security Council 1325 provide that vehicle for member states to jump on this kind of work and try to institutionalize it, not to create more inertia and slow it down, but just to torpedo it forward and make it, go further. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for your intervention. I'm extremely sad that we're at the end of our webinar. I want to leave the floor to Her Highness Sheikha Intisar and Dr. Tariq Sheikh to wrap up our session. Thank you. I leave the floor to you, Sheikha Intisar. You might want to.
Okay, I'm unmuted now. Firstly, I am happy we're ending it because so much has transpired, and I'm in awe of everything that's been shared. Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing it. I would like to just thank you personally, Karma, for beautiful moderation, for taking such good care of all of us and the subjects, asking the best questions, and also supporting us to stay with our time limits so beautifully and eloquently. So thank you for that. For anyone who doesn't know Karma, and I think most people know Karma and most people love Karma, I'm one of them. I met Karma by coincidence, and I'm so proud to call her a friend, and also an advocate for women in peace. I love the way she does it. She is advocating for and making sure women are moderators. Karma is about spreading peace and equality. She's an advisor on women, peace and security, the founder of Diplo Women, amazing Diplo Women initiative, member of the Mediterranean Women Mediators Network. Currently, and beautifully so, Karma is a consultant with the UN Women on mediation and women, peace and security. She was the former international affairs advisor to Lebanese Prime Minister Saad al-Hariri, and Karma worked at the UN's Department of Political Affairs, including the UN Special Coordinator's Office in Lebanon, and a force of nature, a true force of nature. I would like, Habib, thank you. This has been a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant webinar. Thank you for all the attendees. Thank you for everyone sending all the questions and engaging and wanting to know how more they can support or what more they can do. If you have anything, please do email us with any thing you can support us with. We're always looking for help. I would like to just, before I'll just give me 5 minutes. I want to answer two questions. One that I have put here from listening to everyone, and one that was asked. So when a lot of people ask why women, why is the Intisar Foundation supporting women? By the way, Intisar Foundation is not about my name. It's about, because Intisar means victory. And we found it only appropriate that these women are victorious and we help them achieve that status. Basically, women are the root of all positive change. And one woman. And I was asked by one of our ladies, please support my children, please give drama therapy to my children. And I just looked at her, I said, I'm so sorry, no, never. And she was shocked. Why not? I said, if I support your son, how many people will he influence? And she said, oh, him. I said, and when I support you, how many people will you influence? She said, many. And that's precisely why we're working with women. Women have this hunger for change. Women have this hunger for peace because it's about their families, it's about their communities, and they're willing to take a challenge. They're willing to make the extra effort to bring peace. And so that was the first one. And women are the nurturers. So naturally, if we nurture the nurturers, we're going to have a more peaceful society. As you said, Mr. Nasiri, is yes, they're the most afflicted. Yes, they're, as Dr. Samer said, they are the vulnerable, but they also have the ability to be the game changers. And, you know, women are the protectors of their family in a different way than the man. And this creative approach brings out also their sense of being, a different sense of being. One of the things we've realized is with drama therapy, women bond and have fun. And when women have fun or bond over a good thing, they want to grow it. I've never seen any psychological support intervention ever that there's so many smiling and giggling women. And when someone asks about the creative arts for women, we did implement an art therapy program and a drama therapy program. Art therapy did really well. Drama therapy, women were giggling, were speaking out loud, were sharing emotions, were huge as life. We dropped the art therapy and continued with drama therapy because we realized this has a huge impact. Yes, dance therapy would work, music therapy would work, art therapy would work, drama therapy encompasses all of them and has the oomph factor of this woman standing on a stage, be the stage a bucket or an actual stage, and speaking her mind. It is deeply, deeply, deeply cathartic, and it makes a change. So that is why women. And a great thing is, you know, there's in every thing that we think is horrible, or something good happens. And when the COVID-19 pandemic hit, our countries we're working with, we had to stop for sure working in our normal way, and we had to find a new and improved way of working because we wanted to continue to support these women. We could not, in these times, these dire times, abandon them. And so I think it was day 8 from when there was a lockdown. Our trainers and our therapists and our researchers, bless them, God bless them, يعني, I am indebted to them forever, started calling the women, communicating with them, asking them how are they. They were all in a very bad state. And so we had to we're discussing and finding ways of how to continue the support for these women, because they actually need it now more than they ever did. This is not a time to abandon them because we can't see them. This is a time to support them more and more because we have to. So we started working online, we're starting doing different platforms until again, we found the perfect formula that works. We do have smaller groups, but we are doing very, very well so far, and using a lot of innovation, a lot of creativity to be able to support the women. And I'm glad to say, because of that catastrophe of COVID-19, we were able to think outside the box, and we're working on a virtual platform that will support not only the women we currently work with in the vulnerable areas, but all Arab women all over the world. Because it's a virtual, it can take on different countries. It doesn't have to be only in the countries we work with. And because it's virtual, we can have our therapists who are based currently in Lebanon, because it's got the biggest pool of Lebanese drama therapists, and because we have 15 who are going to be starting towards the end of the year in the drama therapy master's program at UZEC, they can be the trainers for Arab women across the world. We cannot be in Libya yet, but we can virtually be in Libya. Same with Kuwait, Saudi, any other country, even Syria, because currently we can't be in Syria. And so this opportunity will actually make our impact bigger and our costs minimized. And so this has been a wonderful opportunity that's come out of the catastrophe of the pandemic. And the other thing is, I would like to share two more things, Mr. Nasir, you said, and I would like to share two more things that we've seen happen with our women who go through our drama therapy, is they start supporting other women. And we think it's natural, but no. Traumatized women are scared. They shut off. They do not support other women because they consider them as a threat. And what we've realized is the women start bonding, start sharing with the other in the community, not only with the group they're with. So we are, Dr. Lina, we're always looking at where do we see the change. And the second thing is we've seen many cases of mothers stopping child marriages, which was normal before her empowerment. She realized her daughter can do something in life. She doesn't need to marry her off to protect her. She can protect her daughter can protect herself. We've seen mothers who've allowed their daughters to study further. So we've seen how supporting a mother can stop many ailments. I can only say them as ailments in the Arab world. And the good thing, you said something about research. Yes, we do evidence-based research on everything we work on because we want to make sure that it works. If something doesn't work, we drop it. So far, alhamdulillah, everything we're doing works because we just have amazing people working on it from the bottom of their heart. And I would like to share Dr. Lina's upcoming research. And we put it in our mandate to have at least 2 to 3 papers a year published on the use of drama therapy on women in different categories. One of them is economic empowerment, as we've seen the expression. And our next one is going to be, you're going to like that because Dr. Lina talked about it, the neuroscience-based research on the impact of drama therapy on the brain's anatomy. That no one's done before. And the second one is the efficacy of e-mental care using virtual drama therapy sessions. Because we're doing it, we want to make sure they work. We know they work, we can see they work. We need to measure and quantify and qualify to be able to grow it. So I will end what I was supposed to say, what I'm saying, and thank you so much, everyone. It was a true pleasure. All the attendees, thank you so much for caring and being here and taking so much of your time. And Dr. Tariq again, Dr. Samir, Mr. Nasiri, Dr. Lina, Karma ya Halwa, and the beautiful, courageous Mrs. Fatma Khalifa. شرفتينا ونورتينا وفتحتي قلبك حقنا. ربي يسعدك بقدر ما تتمنين مليون مرة.
شكرا شيخة. Dr. Tariq, I'll leave the last word to you. At any given time, I was checking the number of participants. We had 100 participants with us most of the time. What would you like to leave them with?
First of all, I would like to thank you so much, Sheikh Intisar, for the convening of this very important topic and bringing all those distinguished panelists, not only the panelists, but also many of our attendees and distinguished attendees and professionals, ambassadors from different people who are concerned with the refugees issues, women issues, and also the issue of new innovative approaches to try to solve the issue of peace and security and mental health and well-being. Also, it was very important for me to see also my dear colleague Mohammed Nasiri after he left the Arab States office again. On the other hand, I would like to say three key words. The first thing is that the new normal that COVID has left us with dictates on us new ways of trying to solve peace and to reach peace. And the new normal, I would also say that we need to think more out of the box. We are here looking at different innovative solutions for solving issues of mental health, for how we strengthen women leadership in peace, safety, and security by new different ways. It's time that we rethink our ways of intermediation, of negotiation, and as Mohammed rightly said, to see the right people on the table for negotiation for peace. For many decades, we have been seeing only men on the table. We have been seeing those, as Mohammed rightly said, that who are not fully representing their societies, their communities. Women and their role in their societies are not only at home at all, even in the refugee society. They are in the forefront. They are in the forefront of supporting their families, protecting their families, sustaining their families, bringing up children up to be engineers, soldiers, doctors, and all those is supporting the community in many ways. Their mental health, their security, their safety, and most importantly, their leadership should be at the forefront. One, I would like to also to close by a very, very thing that is dear to me. I was in Saudi Arabia at the time of the transformation with giving more role and responsibilities to women. And in that time, I will always remember it, that I will be remaining proud to have the first ever woman work continuously from the Ministry of Municipality to be from my team. And this has opened the door for many. And I think that seeing women and using new innovative approaches, I think drama is so excellent. Drama, theater, art, music, all these are things that we need seriously to try in bringing and building peace and bridging the gap between conflict communities. It's time that we think out of the box. And I think this is the right time. And that I don't want to thank COVID, but I would like to say that the new normal dictates to us to think of different solutions. And these solutions come from innovation, like Intisar Foundation's innovation. I've been always, honestly, a fan of Intisar Foundation ideas. From what they do in anti-bullying and supporting children, to lead normal life, to be strong and professional students, to love each other, to be successful. This is how. Psychology is very important. And now we see it more with this COVID. And I think we need to give it more attention. As the Secretary General has rightly mentioned in his strategy, we need to do more internally and externally on that. And thank you again, Sheikh Intisar, for that. We always appreciate the partnership with you. And this is not a start, it's only a start for our future collaboration in Kuwait and outside Kuwait as well. And I wish also to thank my colleague and dear colleague Samer for the information that he has provided us and the work that has been doing UNHCR in particular on refugees. Thank you, Karma, for a wonderful moderation, Dr. Lina, and most importantly also Fatma, our inspiration this day. You really inspired us, and for us, you are an icon for success. And I hope that you will be a model, and we will use you as a model for expanding your experience. Thanks to Mohammed as well. And on the back to all the colleagues who have been supporting this from Intisar Foundation and from the United Nations as well. Thank you all, and thanks to our distinguished participants and all of you. And over to you, Karma. Thanks a lot, Sheikh Intisar, again.
Thank you. I want to genuinely thank the he for she's on the panel. Thank you for all the great men who believe in the partnership with women. Thank you, Sheikh Intisar, the Intisar Foundation, Dr. Lina, the technical team behind this that made it happen, all the participants, as you said, Dr. Tariq, and Fatma, of course, who really, really inspired us today and put everything into perspective. Thank you very much. ضلكم بخير وإن شاء الله بنرجع نلتقى عن قريب.